everyone, and welcome to episode 481 of the MTGGoldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week, kicking things off with the owner of MTGGoldfish, Richard. How are you this fine Monday, Richard?
Good morning, Seth. I'm doing well. My eye unwelded itself from allergies this morning, so I'm very happy about it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, eye being welded shut does not sound like a fun way to kick off a Monday morning.
Definitely
well,
low
that
UV.
got better. We got another co-host in Crim. Good morning, Crim. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm pretty good. I think this is apparently newsworthy in itself. I have completely sold out of my One Piece cards. So I'm done.
Unbelievable. Get
Are
me
you-
hooked on the crack and then just run out. Wow.
They banned my deck. like they banned my stuff. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm out of here.
I don't know if I believe it. Are you going to be back? Is it like Magic? Is One Piece like Magic where you sell out and then like 6 months or 6 years later, you're going to be like, oh, I wish I hadn't sold my cards. I'm doing it again.
My God, I hope not, because if I do, these cards are expensive to buy back in. The game is so much more expensive now.
Do you think you made a profit off your short excursion into One Piece? Like, did the cards go up so much in value that you ended up accidentally making money on it?
I think Richard can tell you all about it. But yeah, like these cards are cards that I got for like $5, like Borsalinos, and now they're like $5. So like all the black cards that I love playing, they're all like $1 billion now.
Wow. Well,
Crim's deck is like $600 for the cheapest versions, by the way. And Crim does not have the cheapest versions. And Crim also probably bought his deck for like less than 100. Easy.
Yes.
Wow. Wow, that's a good. Wait, did you buy his deck, Richard? Did you buy Crim's collection?
God, you think I would
Did
play
you?
Demir? Come on, get out of here. Get out of here.
Ain't nothing wrong with some Demir, okay?
I think I can
Every game
afford
I
his
play.
fancy versions. I'm like, they're so expensive. I'm like, this Borsalino, he busts out his alternate art Borsalinos. I'm like, okay, cool, bro. My
Sick
alternate
flex,
art
bro.
leader is banned. So sad. You just gotta sell it and buy a whole new deck.
Yep. I was done after they banned it. You know what's funny is I did this way back too. I quit when Jace the Mind Sculptor got banned. When they banned him at the end of the month, I was like, all right, Magic sucks. I'm out of here. Like
How long did you quit for when the World Wake quitting?
3 months. And then I came right back. Hey.
Did you sell your
That
cards
was-
though?
does that
Did
even
you sell
Yes,
your cards?
yes, I did. I sold my
Wow.
cards, a majority of my cards. I kept my middle school cards around, but I sold almost all my like Zendikar fetches and all of that.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, anyway, today we got a bunch of topics to get through. We are talking about some WotC news with a change in leadership, some new cards coming to Magic, some anime cards. We got an update to the Commander Clash house ban list. There's a Pro Tour this weekend. And then we want to talk a bit about what's actually going on with Outlaws at Thunder Junction. We have our first new tournament results featuring the set. So we want to talk a little bit about Standard, in Pioneer, in Modern, and what cards from the set are actually showing up in tournament lists. So that's the overview for today, and then maybe answering some fish mail. Before we get to that though, a reminder that today's show is brought to you by Card Conduit, and Card Conduit's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. And if you ever get tired of the hassles of buy listing, you can skip them with Card Conduit. You can use your curated service and send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more, and pay a 2% or a 5% service fee, And if you want to do a bit of work, you can use the sorted service where you list and sort your cards in advance and pay just a 2% fee. And no matter which option you choose, you're going to get a detailed report with the results and a fast payment once your order is processed. And you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/MTGGoldfish. Card Conduit, they're the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thank you to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we also have another sponsor today. Today's show is brought to you by Richard King Ferguson's Playmat Kickstarter, which features never-seen-before extended arts on playmats and prints. Richard has been an artist with MTG since the 90s, starting with the Legend set, where he painted iconic cards like Dakan Blackblade, Nebuchadnezzar, and Solkanar the Swamp King. After a hiatus in the 2000s, he came back to the MTG fold in 2019 for some more iconic Dakan cards like Dakan Shadowslayer, Dakan Reforged, and a Dakan Blackblade Secret Lair drop. The Kickstarter features iconic card arts like Impure Tutor and Latent Tutor and Force of Will. The extended art playmats and prints are exclusive to the Kickstarter campaign, never to be sold again ever after the campaign ends, so it's super limited edition. The campaign's live now and runs until May 22nd, and all the money raised will help Rich finish his 200 plus page graphic novel, so make sure to check out Richard Kane Ferguson's limited edition playmat and print Kickstarter today. All right, so thank you to our sponsors, and let's talk some Magic, and let's start with what might be the biggest news of the week. And Richard, I really want your opinion on this. So we found out this week that the president of Wizards of the Coast, so Wizards of the Coast owned by Hasbro, the Hasbro CEO is Chris Cox, but the leader of Wizards of the Coast, the president, is actually stepping down. Cynthia Williams, effective the end of this week, I believe, this Friday or Saturday. Does this mean anything? What does it mean when a president of a company steps down? Does this mean that Cynthia is moving on to some better job because Magic was so profitable under her watch that she's moving up? Is it that Magic's not doing well and they're booing her out the door? What do you make of this?
So you debated me. You said the biggest news of the week. I thought we were talking about Cowboy Bebop, but yeah, this person. So nobody knows. Okay, this is off-season type news. Okay, we dug out the official filing with the SEC that Cynthia is leaving her position. Did she get fired? Did she get a better job? Is she retiring? Nobody knows. So you can't really make any evaluation of this other than whatever you feel. So if you feel Wizard sucks, you're like, wow, she finally got fired. Good riddance, right? Or it's possible that, she just quit, right? Like nobody really knows. And if she joined a private company or something, you would never know about it until she makes the announcement, right? So it's like, I don't know. This is like off-season news. There's no actual news here other than there's a change at Wizards, but we don't know if it was due to negative performance or greener pastures or what it was. So I would just say it's probably irrelevant. I don't know. We should probably talk about Modern Horizons 3 cards has a bigger impact than what Cynthia is doing at Wizards of the Coast.
Okay, so you're probably right. I guess we can't read too much into it. We do get quarterly reports this week, which maybe that'll shed some light on it if they do really well or really poorly. But my question is, Richard, like, how much does the president matter? I guess that's my overarching question, because I've seen some people be like, who are mad about whatever the direction of Magic is, and they're like, yeah, this is gonna change everything. A new president in there, cards are gonna be cheaper. Everything's gonna be better now. Is that how the president position of a corporation even works? Like, do you think that Cynthia Williams is having, like, put detective hats on those Murders at Karlov Manor cards? I want a Kellen in every set this year. There better be a Kellen in every set or you're fired. Like, do you think that's how this works? Or it doesn't actually on a day-to-day basis? Like, how much impact do you think the president has on the game we love?
I don't know. All the names are made up, so we don't know what they actually do.
Yeah,
right? Like within every company, even the CEO does different things, right? Like, but I don't know. I think the way it's actually going to impact us is if Wizards fired her because she wasn't doing her job, then you're going to see changes happen. But if she left because whatever reason, Wizards will just find someone to replace and do the same job if she's doing a good job. So it can really go either way is what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is we have no actual insightful commentary here. But my personal take is that we know Wizards has been doing a bang up job, especially according to the metrics that they care about, which is like revenue and growth and things like that. They are like propping up Hasbro itself. So I would be shocked if she was removed for performance or something like that, right? That it would be something else, and that they're going to try to keep the ship going, keep making Universes Beyond, keep expanding their IP relationships and stuff like that. So I don't expect to see much change. Like, I don't think she gets fired and then like Standard comes back and like
Standard gets better,
baby. Like I don't.
She gets.
I don't think Universes Beyond
Standard
goes away
is already back.
They finally
already back.
They finally fixed the commander ban list. It was actually Cynthia that was like keeping this commander ban list irrational.
She was the green player. That was it. Now rejoice. All the other colors can get love.
It would be sweet if a Magic person got the job. I think it's probably unlikely. It seems like they usually hire execs from other companies, but can you imagine like Aaron Forsyth or someone like that who's just like knows and loves Magic and has been there their entire life? That'd be really cool to see a Wizard president that actually came from the game, but my hopes are not super high.
That's who
So
you don't want to run it, right? You want someone who will make money hand over fist, not someone who loves the game.
hey, yeah, I
Wait,
guess
no,
that's
I
true.
think you would like. Hold on, with that, how much worse would it be, or could it be, if someone who loved the game took over? Right? I mean, it's not like,
Okay,
you, like
imagine
you don't have
Trim,
the
if
business
I made you
mindset.
CEO of WotC tomorrow because you love the game.
That's great.
You're gonna be like,
Every-
great, I love the game. Now, how do I manage
God.
5,000 employees and make them do the thing I want to do? And oh my God,
Prim-
like the investors are yelling at us, and like we're doing so well, and Post Malone won't buy our new One Ring. Like, how are you gonna navigate this just because you love the game?
Plus, Crim would print way too many counter spells. We can't.
I mean,
charge.
that's because I love the game.
I love the game so much. No one can play the game though. Nope.
All right, let's move on to another topic, one that I know that both of you do love. So we're getting some new Magic cards, some new promos that are kind of anime focused. Crim,
Yeah.
what anime is coming to Magic in promo form?
We are finally getting some, like, with OTJ, right? We've got a little bit of a cowboy theme. It's a Western theme, and one of the Westerns, and one of the few Westerns I actually enjoy, is Cowboy Treetop. So, like, yeah, obviously Cowboy Bebop is here, but it is not Spike and Co. It's Oko as Spike. And they actually dropped a trailer because, once again, Magic loves to tease me and make me miserable by never actually releasing a Magic anime, but only teasing me with an anime of Magic. So they do a trailer, they use Tank, they do all the Cowboy Bebop things. So they use the opening theme song, they do the whole opening video intro of Cowboy Bebop, but with the characters of Magic. So you've got Oko as Spike, you've got Vraska as Faye, I think Tony Bones is supposed to be Ed, and then you've got Rakdos as Jet. But most importantly, with this is coming with a bunch of promo cards, which I'm not quite sure. Originally, it was said that it was only in Japan, right? But like now, I what is it, Seth? You can get it at your LGS.
So
right,
there are Japanese versions of these cards that are only in Japan. I'm not exactly sure how you get the Japanese exclusive ones, but they just announced this morning that starting in August, like one a month through the end of the year, the start of next year, actually, they're going to have standard showdown events at your local game store. And if you just show up and play during your standard showdown, you can get these promos, and they look super cool. And I don't even know what Cowboy Bebop, well, I've heard of Cowboy Bebop. It's got to be one of the most famous animes, right? I've never watched it, but it's one that I actually know the name of. I don't really know the show though, but the art on these cards is sweet. Like, I don't even care about Cowboy Bebop, but I kind of want to just play these cards because they look super cool. So yeah, you can get them for free from your LGS.
And those cards, to be exact, are Ossification, and then, which has got Tony Bones on it, Disdainful Stroke with Oko smoking like Spike, and then we've got Throw for the Goat, Go for the Throat with Rakdos, and then we've got Kellen's little blaster thing that totally looks like a Halo plasma sword, but is totally Kellen's blaster for Lightning Strike, and then lastly, Snakeveil Skin with Vraska as Faye. So these cards are pretty damn cool.
Richard, what do you think of the coolness level of these cards?
I like the art, but the cards all suck. I guess Snake Skin
bro.
Veil is playable. I'll play that over.
Throats use a lot of standard play.
Ossification, Lightning Strike, Disdainful. These are all.
I mean, I get it.
They're
This is for
standard cards.
standard,
They're
but I
standard.
want these for my commander deck. Okay, and Snake
Oh,
Skin Veil is the only one that's reasonable, and it's also
We
the
have
Vraska
enough things for
/Faye.
Commander, Richard.
The real question is, what is the new Cowboy Bebop thing that they're promoting? I was doing a quick Google search and I couldn't find anything. I also know there's an Overwatch collab coming out too.
Oh,
They're
dude,
pushing,
no, don't look at those. Don't look at that.
they're pushing hard on this. And I couldn't find like a new series or a new movie or anything really. What are they promoting? I'm
Yeah.
confused.
The old show, I guess. Like, it's funny, the article on Wizards actually has a, like, what is Cowboy Bebop? It's, like, for people that don't even like me, I guess, who don't even know what the show is. But I'm imagining they're just, you can watch it on Netflix or whatever, right? It's streaming now, so I guess they're just
Yeah.
hoping people watch the series. But yeah, I didn't see anything new they're promoting either.
I mean, yeah, maybe it's like lost somewhere in like some of the posts in Japan, but yeah, like right now I think the only thing is they're just doing collabs because they're doing collabs, right? It's a Western set in with a Western show, space sci-fi. I mean, if they're promoting something, I don't know what it could be, because I hope it's not like a continuation of the story, because it's 26 episodes and it ended, and that's the way it needs to stay.
They gotta reboot
So-
it. It's been like
No,
25 years or something. It's time to do it again.
If they want to remaster it, like redo all that like animation, that's great. But if they continue the story, like actually, without saying any spoilers, but then again, there is a grace period, and I think we've gone past it. What, you had like 15 years to watch it,
So how big of a deal is this for Standard? Because we've been talking for a year now about revitalizing Standard, trying to get more people to play it in paper. Is this like a draw? Do you think, like, are you guys going to go to your LGS and do a Standard showdown so you can snag
Yes.
these promos?
God, yes. Are you kidding me? Oh my God, yes. Oh, these are so clean.
So I gotta buy a $500 deck, then go play Standard to get me my $10 promos. So I was
And then you
like,
can have
I
a
gotta play
lightning
F&M now. Like, no, I'm just gonna go to Card Kingdom and pick up my Snakeskin Veil and call it a day, because you gotta buy a Standard deck, and that totally like, this has to be, I don't know, they're giving out like Underground Seas or something before I pick up and go to Standard showdowns, right? You gotta buy a whole new deck for that. I don't have Standard
What are you
cards.
talking about? Standard's so good right now. I'm surprised you aren't trying to play.
Yeah, but
this
if I play it, I'll
format,
just hop
Richard.
on Arena and call it. Like, I don't want to go buy a Standard deck in paper. That's
I-
ridiculous.
I think it matters. I remember like Path to Exile F&M promo, or like good F&M promos drawing more people into the store to play F&M. Like, don't you remember that from the old days? Like that the number of people that show up would depend on like how strong the F&M promo of the month was. So I feel like these might, like, yeah, and maybe it doesn't get Richard to give up Arena and buy a $500 deck, but I feel like it's gonna get Crim. It's gonna bring some people in. Like, I feel like these are pretty good promos based on like what we've seen recently for an F&M style promo. So I think it's going to help to some extent. No,
it needs
no
to be
impact.
Commander. Because so before we were playing F&M anyway, so we're like, oh, I have a deck, and I was going to my sister's wedding or something this weekend. Like, I'll skip that to get the Path to Exile. I already have the deck, right? Now I gotta build a deck, and that is so much. Right? But if they're like, come play Commander F&M, which I don't normally play, I'm like, okay, I can bring my existing Commander F&M deck, come and get the promo. It's worth it for me. But to put together an entire new deck, like, oh, that's gonna be rough just for a promo.
Just build a standard legal commander deck and play that, Richard.
Like what if it was $100? Like, I still would, like, I got to sink like $300-400 into a standard deck, go play for $100 back. Like, is that even worth it? Like,
I will say that these cards do. You think they're gonna stay cheap? These are pretty sweet and like kind of a hot commodity, right?
We don't know how they're being distributed exactly. So I guess, like, are they just giving everyone who goes to Standard Showdown a bunch of copies? Do you got to like top 8 or something? Is there like handing them out as door prizes? So I think that'll determine it, right? Like, if they're pretty scarce, I bet they could end up being kind of expensive. But if they're just like handing them out to everyone, maybe they will be kind of cheap. I don't know. I can't.
I mean, we've had Standard Showdown promos. Are any of them ever expensive? Like, how expensive do they get?
None of them were Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah,
the thing is, like,
you got anime cards that are
care.
pretty expensive, right? Like, that's kind of, we've seen some of the anime cards be more expensive than you'd think. So I guess that would be the argument for them being expensive, is not so much that it's like a promo, but that it's anime.
Well, but if normal Standard Showdown cards are $50, then you can expect these to be wildly out of control. But if a normal Standard Showdown card is like 50 cents, then you could probably guess that this will be a lot more reasonable, right?
Okay, Standard Showdown. I see a basic swamp here. Oh, okay. So actually, yeah, they're not that expensive. Like, Sunken Hollow is like $3.50. Smoldering Marsh is like $2.
Hold on. You're looking at cards that have been reprinted into the ground from Commander.
Oh, come
right?
on. We're talking about
And
disdainful stroke here. the
yeah,
the base
no,
card is
but like,
free. It's the
but then
promo version that counts, right?
exactly but the promo version of these cards, Sunken Hollow, all of that, it's like what, a stamp,
Yeah,
right?
so
Like,
far, I think it does have unique art. I'm pretty sure just looking at them. But so far, the only standard showdown promos we've seen are basic lands or those Innistrad dual lands. Those are the only ones that I'm seeing at least listed.
Look, here's my guess. Snakeskin Veil, out of control expensive because it's the only semi-playable commander card here, plus waifu tax. Okay, you got Vraska / Fae art there. Everything else, bulk. Maybe go for the throat for Crim. everything else,
are you
ossification, disdainful joke, lightning strike. Like, I guess
okay?
disdainful stroke you might play in commander.
You could
These are
play it if you wanted
so.
to.
Well, yeah, what
Ossification
also?
in an Enchantress deck maybe would be fine.
Yeah.
Ish.
Well, I will say though, the only thing that's weird is why is Tony Bones on ossification? Like it's a little awkward that he's on a white card because I'd want to play him in my Tony Bones deck in black, you know. But yeah, that's the only thing that I'd say I have an issue with so far in this set.
I mean, since one was Oko mono blue, but it's fine.
But I mean,
Yeah.
you could, but you can play this in your deck with Oko, right? Because
That's
it's
true.
blue and green, right? I cannot play ossification in it for the commander players, right? Which is nowadays the driving force of how the market looks. So, like, if I want my Tony Bones art, I can't use it. I get to just stare at it in my binder.
Snakeskin Veil. Snakeskin Veil
Yeah,
goes in every
Snakeskin
green
Veil.
deck.
Who would have thought?
That part's sweet.
It's close enough. It's close enough. It does the job. It gives hexproof. It's close enough.
It's pretty much Veil.
Well, those promos start in August, so keep an eye out at your LGS. If you want to try to snag some of them, go play some standard after rotation. But they look pretty cool, and then I'm sure the Japanese ones will probably be pretty expensive over here, I would guess. But yeah, we'll see. I have a hard time getting the Japanese promos sometimes. Japan gets all the coolest promos. But anyway,
I'm gonna say, don't buy Japanese cards. I regret. So I have a stack of Japanese mystical archives, which I knew exactly
'em.
what they were when I
I'll take
purchased them. But like 2 years after, I look at them, I'm like, what the heck is this card? Is this counter spell? Is this ephemerate? Like, what is this? It is so difficult. And I gotta go search on the internet to figure out what my own cards are because I have forgotten over time. Like, the fact that you cannot read them is a big deal, and you will not remember what they are like 2 years in the future.
Richard, this sounds like some kind of old man screaming at the sky thing. I promise you, like, I still love my Japanese cards.
I think it's actually their superpower. I think I've mentioned this before, but there's like a 1 white mana one, and I can play that as a mana tithe, it can be ephemerate, it can be a God's Willing, and no one questions me. I just put it on my commander decks, and it's like the ultimate charm, yeah, because no one knows.
It's like a Hearthstone card that changes every turn it's in
Yeah.
hand. You know?
All right, let's move on to some ban list update news. Actually, this is our personal ban list update, but we haven't really talked about this, so I figured we should probably get it out there. So we have had a change to the Commander Clash house ban list, which is going into effect immediately. I think we already have an episode recorded, so you might see some of these cards in like next week's episode, but the next episode we record this ban list will be in effect. Richard, what are we adding to the ban list?
I don't know. I'm salty about it. I give up. Glacial Chasm and Field of the Dead banned going forward in Commander Clash. I feel exactly how Crim felt in like season 13 or something, where he happened to pop off the game before the last game of the season. So we banned like Counterbalance,
Notion Thief, everything Crim
banned
played.
his whole suite of cards. Just because Field of the Dead popped off once all season, it's gone.
Once.
I think it
right?
actually only
Just
popped
once.
up once. I think it actually
No,
popped up once.
No, it pops up. Did you ever trigger it more than once the whole season? If so, it's popped off more than once.
Look, once it shows up, makes like 2 zombies 99% of the time. And then one time I drew 50 cards, made like 6 land drops every turn, and it made too many zombies. And like that was the problem card, right? So we do definitely have a last game bias here on Commander Clash. Smothering Tides ate it so hard this season because we made a test recording on Spell Table, and I made like 60 treasures with Smothering Tide that test game, and lo and behold, Smothering Tide axed for the season.
It's funny too because we criticize the Commander RC for doing the same thing. We're like, oh, har har har, they lost to that card and then banned it, and we kind of, I
We
guess,
do it
do
all
the
the
exact
time.
same thing. But seriously, so since someone's gonna ask, our current ban list is these two cards are added to it. Fast mana in general, like Soul Rings, Gaia's Cradles, Docksides, Smothering Tide, Rhystic Study. So fast mana, these two new lands, Smothering Tide, the Rhystic Study. So why do we actually ban these cards? Like, what is, if someone asks us, why do you do it outside of recency bias or whatever? Like, what would the answer be to why we put these on our house ban list? And secondarily, because I want you both to answer this, secondarily, do you think this should happen to the format as a whole? Like, is this our playgroup thing, or is this we think these cards are actually a problem in Commander, period?
I mean, I'm not going to say that, we are exactly the appropriate people to be in charge of this ban list, but I will say that we play a lot of Magic, right? I mean, we play a lot of it. And I assume over a season, we play, test, and run into these cards enough to where I think that, I don't know. I mean, I think some of these bans are justified, right? I mean, I hated Field of the Dead in Standard. I hated it when it terrorized me there. I hated it when it terrorized me in Modern. I always thought it was a busted card. So no, not really a surprise that it terrorized me in Commander as well. I do think that some of our ban lists is a bit ambitious, but I will say that I think that Field of the Dead needs to go. For sure needs to go. And obviously, at this point, I'm never going to see Sol Ring get banned, so I'm just not even going to bring it up. Except for that.
What do you think, Richard?
So arguments for these why these cards need to go is lands can't really be interacted with very nicely in Commander, right? And we always say lands are untouchable in Commander, and people kind of misconstrue what we mean, right? So you can play Strip Mine, you can play Stone Rain, but who the heck is going to Stone Rain, right? Like, green player ramping out like 4 lands a turn, and you're going to rely on a single Stone Rain to keep things under control. Like, it is so bad, right? You really do need the sweeper to catch up. But Armageddon, Ruination, things like that are off limits, right? And, we saw the Ruination game, right? But I can guarantee you that most Commander players do not want to see that happening on a regular basis. So the only way to kind of police this is to kind of get some of these utility lands to not be as oppressive. So that's why we banned them. Also, the lands go in every color deck, right? So like literally every deck can play Field of the Dead. And then you can also search them up quite easily. Like green has tons of ways to search them out. White can also search out lands as well. And then thirdly, in our Vesuva Thespian stage meta, we're all copying. So usually one fair Field of Dead is no problem. But if you copy it twice or 3 times, then it is not so fair anymore, right? And that's where it becomes a problem. Or one player plays it, they get a little advantage. Another player clones it, they have an advantage. The other 2 players are left kind of holding the bag. So those are the reasons. Should it apply to the greater community? I don't know. Like, a lot of people are like, well, get good. If they're making 7 land drops, you should have comboed off in 1 already. Like, okay. Right? I mean, I would say that Wizards needs to stop making good lands, not because they're individually broken, but because they are not interactable. Right? And they keep making non-basic land tutors in green that bring them onto the battlefield. And since we can't interact with these lands in an efficient manner, and if it becomes efficient, it's too salty, right? So it can never be done in an efficient manner. They need to chill on non-basic lands with utility. Like, they should all just be like a forest or something, right? None of this like surveil stuff. None of this make zombies. None of this you get a fog and immunity for like until you don't have enough life to pay with Glacial Chasm, Maze of It. I would argue these are all mistakes that Wizards has made, but they continue to make new ones. So I'm not sure they see it the same way, right? They continue to make new ones.
Just let the salty babies be salty. It's fine. We're just gonna blow up the lands, right? I mean, in all honesty, I do think that the utility land banning only is a band-aid on the actual whole problem, and it's not the utility land that really gets the games in a miserable state. It's the fact that there's one color, that ramps exponentially farther They don't even need the mana rocks. You can have as many mana rocks as you want because those are all tangible and things that are on the table to get blown up. However, a green deck is able to just go and ramp like 3 times your resources, and you can't really do anything about it. It's like you could just actually have all basics. It does not matter. As long as you can make 3 to 4 more plays than the rest of the table, you're probably going to win.
I mean, that's true, but that's also a problem that, like, how do you fix that? There's so many rampant growths, explosive
there is a way to
vegetation,
fix
so I don't
that.
know, like, Armageddon's ruination.
Legitimately, I'm not even joking. I know people will say that it's not a good way to fix it, but I genuinely think that that is the only way to fix it. We just choose not to, like they would have to print some pretty wild things, but even then, let's just say the next card, they print one card that fixes all of our problems. That's 1 in 100 cards. It's just like the opposition agent problem that I have. There's only 1 opposition agent in my deck. The problem is they don't print enough of them, and it'll be a million years till we get the second one. So like we would need more of these. But you know what there is a lot of? There's a lot of cataclysms. There's a lot of Armageddon. There's a lot of ruinations. And I'm just saying,
I would like to point out, I would like to point out that the Ruination game we had recently, you may have been slinging a bunch of green ramp spells to back up your Ruination, and that's why you went into the Ruination, because you were casting green ramp spells.
Didn't matter, because I blew up all my own lands. I didn't even play basics. I had 1 basic, and I just said, you know what? Whatever. All my lands, when they go too. Whatever.
I actually figured a way to fix this, because the reason we came up with this, because we had a debate whether we should be playing Armageddon and stuff like that. So the problem with non-basic land hate is it like breaks dual lands, right? So if you're playing a 4 or 5 color deck, you're just gonna get destroyed. You're not gonna play like 30 basics. You can't get around it. So they need to add like a third type of land, a basic land, a color fixing land, and a utility land. Right? And like make those encoded in Magic, and then you can have Ruination that kills all utility lands, but leaves dual lands untouched, so that you can play like 5 color decks without like, literally getting stopped like every single time a Ruination goes off.
We've solved the problem.
There's this card, Sabo's Web, I think it is, but it messes. I don't know. I don't know. But we need like a Ruination that applies to lands that have abilities other than mana abilities. Like I think you could just print that card, like destroy all non-basic lands that have abilities other than mana abilities or something like that. That would probably be the answer, right? So then it dodges all the dual lands. But you get rid of all the Fields of Ruins and Maze of It.
You make a secret lair with 10 different versions. Like 10.
Oh, that's gonna go over real well. That's gonna go over real well.
So Crib has a really good point though, because we talked about like what's the reason to play a basic land, and then Tomer was like land tax, and I'm like, land tax is great, but I have 1 land tax in my deck, or I could have 37 utility lands. I'm gonna take 37 utility lands. So you need to print the critical mass of those cards when you print them, and just 1 Bowmasters or 1 Notion Thief is not enough to like police the whole format. So there is a fair point to making tons of those cards.
Yeah, I got it. I guess you bring it back, right? Okay, we're gonna teach the new blood in Magic. You make it standard, a viable standard archetype, land destruction.
No,
you bring Ponza back into
Imagine
standard.
Every game where your mana screwed, right? Like the Ruination game is not only bad because I got Armageddon, but then I bricked in lands in my top 6 cards. I didn't draw another land, right? Because I was mana screwed that game on top of getting Armageddon, right? So you exacerbate those mana screw games by doing the Armageddon, right? You cannot.
I will say.
What's the saying? Get good, right? Just draw the lands.
I will say that chat had no sympathy, or the comments had no sympathy for you, Richard, because you were playing a monocolored deck and still got destroyed by Ruination. That was the theme of the comments, is Richard getting what he deserves because he's playing monocolored and still got by Ruination.
I will farm the views. But I was stuck on 5 lands that game, no matter what was happening, based on the top of my deck. Right, so like people are like, play more basics. Like, what do you get? Like sometimes you just don't draw the right number of cards, right? Like if you run against Ruination, if you have 50% basics, if you drew the other 50%, you still got Armageddon, right? And if you're just playing 10, it does nothing, right? So like variance is a big thing, and you can't get around variance like that, right? Like you would actually argue Blood Moon is a safer card to play, right? Because you can still make colorless mana with your lands. But again, who wants to do this, right? Who wants to sit down and play with no mana in a 4-player game? Especially if someone else asymmetrically built their deck to get ahead of it, right? Like that's the big problem.
I will say before we move on, like Glacial Chasm, I don't think you got a ban in Commander. I could see an argument, I guess, for Field of the Dead, which is pretty busted. But if you look at EDH Rec, Field of the Dead 3% of decks, Glacial Chasm 1% of decks. I think if we ended up with Glacial Chasm being played in like 20% of decks, yeah, sure, get it out of there. And it is getting better because of like Archdruid's Charm, another instant speed way to tutor it out. But it would be very silly, I think, for the actual like full Commander format to ban like Glacial Chasm at this point. I think that's more of like an our meta issue in how we build decks and how our metagames evolved than a Commander in general issue. So I don't think I would be calling for like Glacial Chasm to be banned in Commander proper, but I think it is probably the right choice for our play group because it has been showing up a lot recently. So anyway,
Seth can get greedy because you know what the funny answer about these lands are? Strip Mine, Wasteland, Dust Bowl. Like they're all eligible to be played. Like, okay, Field of the Dead, you're like, I get it. They made like 10 zombies, you're losing the battle. But Glacial Chasm, someone slaps one down, you just strip mine it and you 2-for-1 them because they had a sack of land on the way in, and that can be played in every deck in the same manner. Glacial Chasm can be played in every deck. So
why
that,
don't
that,
do you
that
guys
one is
do you guys not play it? I play Strip Mine in almost every single Commander deck I build. Do you guys run it or no?
Nope.
greedy. Greedy.
Like why like one land isn't gonna stop again. Glacial or Strip Mine picking off one problematic land isn't enough. Again, my main issue is not any one land. I mean, yes, I hate Field of the Dead and all of that, but that is one of many lands, right? When you are like quadrupling the resources and the things that you are supposed to do to balance it out, everyone will like flip their patties and like, you know, like blow, like just like blow a lid on because it's not allowed. And so realistically, when you think about it, it's sometimes pretty humorous. Commander is a format where it's like, however, will we solve this issue? There is nothing that we can do behind us here. There's the piles and piles of Armageddon cards, but we have nothing we can do. How could this have happened to us? How did this happen to us? How do we fix this?
No one knows. It's an
there's
unsolvable
just no
problem.
clear solve. Stares intensely at camera with all the Armageddons and Eldritch spells in the back.
All right. That's our Commander ban list update. We got to hit up a couple other topics. So this weekend, we have a Pro Tour Thunder Junction, and it's going to be standard. And I got to say, I'm actually unreasonably excited for this event. I am planning on spending my weekend watching some Pro Tour action because not only do we just get a new set and not only is standard good right now, this Pro Tour is happening like a week and a half or 2 weeks after set release. I have been yelling at Wizards for years, like, why do you always schedule your standard Pro Tours like 2 months after the latest set release when the format's salved and boring? This one's actually happening very soon after set release, so I'm really excited to see what new stuff shows up. Yes, I'm sure we'll see a ton of Esper. We'll see a ton of the decks, you know, Aftermath Analysis or whatever, the decks that were good going into the format, but I think Outlaws of Thunder Junction is going to bring some new things, and I am really excited to see what happens. So are you guys watching Pro Tour this weekend? No,
I won't lie to you.
Are you playing in the Pro Tour?
I am playing in the Pro Tour. Pro Tour my bedroom because I did not know that there was a Pro Tour. To be honest with you,
they gotta advertise these better.
They like that they do, right? Like I mean that they do because I for some odd reason know more that there's an LCS League event before I I don't even care about League. I don't know why it's on my feed. I do not care about League, but I do not know that there's a Pro Tour, which is kind of humorous to me because you would think the algorithm would immediately tap into my whatever my hobbies and interests to show me that. But will I watch it now?
The algorithm's next level. It knows that you are podcasting about it anyway, and you will know about it. Therefore, it spends its time advertising LCS to you.
Oh, God.
It's already next level to you.
I've been had.
So my question for you guys is, what's something cool we might see at this event? So if you look at the metagame right now in Standard, Esper Demir, Boros Convoke, Mono Red Domain, the graveyard land decks like the Aftermath Analyst decks. And then beyond that, you get to other mid-range piles, Azorius Controls in the second tier, some Toxic decks in the second tier. Give me your breakout pick. Give me a pick of a deck that maybe isn't at the top of the meta, but you're hoping might have a big weekend at the Pro Tour. Any ideas?
Like, I think for like something that I want to see break out, and I think there's something there outside of the obvious control deck. Blue-black, Rush of Dread, Bloodletter of Aklazats with Mind Link
Yes.
Mech, right? Like, this now gives you multiple ways to go off with Bloodletter of Aklazats. But then again, I thought about it. I'm like, that might be 12 cards that do nothing individually.
That feels
together.
That feels like the kind of deck a pro could break, right? Doesn't it seem like that? You got a 2-card combo. It's pretty efficient. Like, if that combo is going to work, wouldn't you think that this would be when it gets broken and someone figures it out and just like crushes the tournament with standard Splinter Twin or whatever? I think it's possible.
I mean, I'd like to see it. Like, there's a lot of you had kind of touched up on this, and another reason why I haven't known that there was a Pro Tour is because we haven't had a Pro Tour or a major event after a launch of a new set. And this would be the perfect time to do it. It'd be so nice. And I'm curious if there's other things that we might have missed as well. Because what about Jace Reawakened? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know Richard thinks that's Tybalt, but I don't think that's Tybalt. I think that is way better than Fiend Blooded. Like, there's something there, and maybe it's all in this deck, but like, what? There has to be something going on. Also, High Noon. This is a card I played around with on stream. I made a video for. This card wins games, dude. Going 5 upstairs wins games. Along with Aven Interrupter. Like, those two combined have been winning games. With Soul Partition, dude, this is the Pro Tour where any of these ideas, it's so funny, these ideas seem like pet ideas, but that's just because we haven't had a standard event in so long. But this is the event.
So
what do you think?
We have a preview of this data, right? The challenges are out, and we know they are like 20-ish% Esper mid-range is the dominant deck. We know some of the new cards being played: Tiny Bones, Duelist of the Mind. Gruul has a resurgence with what is that 2-drop called?
Slick Shot Show Off. Yeah.
Slick Shot Show Off. So we have these, right? So I'm tempted to say this will just be like, here's the build of Esper midrange where we tweaked 4 cards and that's the innovation. You're really hoping that the pros come up with some combo deck, right? Like some combo deck that will shoot this. Otherwise, it's going to be a pile of good stuff cards where they tweak the ratio slightly. Given the size of the card pool and how powerful the existing cards are, I'm leaning towards that. But you never know, right? Like, just even a team of pros, if they choose like the 3rd best deck, it's possible that they're just so skilled they'll just run the numbers up on that deck and like kind of make it meta out of like sheer will. But like, is this prime for a Pioneer situation where the vampire deck comes out of nowhere? Like, do we have something like that sitting in the shadows?
Yeah.
This is our first 3-year standard, the first Pro Tour we've had in standard with the format being this big. I think that this could be the chance that we get the breakout. I think there actually is like realistic. We just got a huge new set of cards. It's got all the big score cards. So there's like 30 extra mythics out there for people to build with. I don't think it's impossible that we see, like, yes, I think Esper will be the most played deck most likely. And that'll be like the top tier deck of the meta, but I would not be surprised if people figure out a way to like beat that deck and get around it at all. I think it's going to happen.
Have you seen the Grixis midrange deck that uses Marchesa, Dealer of Death, and it's all about committing crimes? It's got Magda, it's got, Vodmir, all these cards, and like Tiny Bones joins up. There's lots of ways, that plus Kervik the Punisher, a card that I kind of was really high on after the early access event, that can really outgrind some of these decks. So I could also see there being a new mid-range deck. Maybe it's not just Esper. As for aggro, well, I mean, I think now for aggro, I don't know how much innovation you can do. Boros Convoke has pest control in the format. But like I will say Bant Poison. I think Poison is going to now be I think, the aggro deck of Standard.
I
So,
got
let
to
me
give a
ask
shout
you-
out. Oh, go ahead.
let me ask you this, Seth. So we're pining of the good old days of Pro Tour coverage where we stay up, dig out deck lists. And then remember that we all complained that Wizards should just release the deck lists rather than us having like to piece them together like literal like Ravnica, Karloff Manor style. And then they did. So on Friday, they're going to dump the metagame and they're going to dump the deck list. And if you see it to be all Esper midrange, no spice, are you still gonna watch the Pro Tour?
I'm going to mow my lawn or something. Yeah. I'm out of here.
Do you
No,
think-
seriously, I still will. I will be less excited if we see there's no new brews and it's like 40% Esper or something absurd. I would be less hyped, but I think I would still tune in. I would still tune in, maybe not as intently as I would have otherwise, but I would still, like, as I'm doing other stuff, I'll have it on. I'll keep an eye on it. If there's a bunch of spicy new brews, I might just be, at my computer all weekend, like watch it, like actually dedicatedly watching the entire thing. So yeah, I think it's worth it though. It's worth putting the list out there.
I
believe I think you should
actually watch
manage it. I think you should manage expectations here. I think if you're expecting like 2 new decks or something like that, I don't think that's going to happen. I think there might be 1 new deck, but there's going to be returning decks. I think Grixis midrange could be something like coming back. So if you're expecting though an entirely new archetype, like, oh my god, this is plot.deck, right? Then I mean, I believe plot cards will get played. I think nowadays with the 3-year standard, I don't think one archetype is going to propel itself unless it got like 4 sets worth of support to like rock it up, right? But I do see every archetype that does exist, and to me, that's exciting. If every archetype across the board, including like the tier 2s and 3s, got a bunch of cards to play and kind of just gradually just boosts its power level up. So for me, I'm not expecting 4 new decks, 50 new brews, anything like that. That's what the arena ladder is for, and like going on like the leagues and stuff. But at a Pro Tour, I fully expect to see Esper midrange. I fully expect to see the top decks, but I want to see how many new cards are used across a 3-year standard from a wide variety of sets. If there's a good spread, and it's not just all like Kamigawa and Capenna, then this is good, right? I would say that's a net win. That's a new brew to me. That's a new format to me. So Richard jokes about the 3 new card innovation. I will sit there and be like, oh, it's so clean. It's perfect art. Like it's
that doesn't do it for me.
As Ivan Flock was like, you know what? I'm gonna just remove the win cons from Blue White Control. I'm like, art, it's art, watching art being made.
I will tell you, I think deserts are secretly busted. I think we're gonna see. I think desert. I'm telling you, the new bounce land, Arid Archway. You play a Splunking, it's literally Ancient Tomb and Standard. If there's not some sort of standard amulet deck with Splunking and the bounce lands in the deserts, I'm telling you, the pros are doing it wrong. There's gotta be some
the pros are doing it wrong.
They're doing it wrong. Get on it, pros. Come on.
That's the Cinderella story, right? Like these cards are just sitting here and you come up with some insanely broken deck that is so like off the wall, like Esper midrange just cannot deal with it. They're like, well, I don't have land destruction. Like, what? I'm gonna die, right? Like I can't deal with this, right? So that is the best case scenario. That's there is an insane synergy that no one really saw, and then it happens. So that's what I'm hoping for. Is it likely? I don't know. We'll see. But deserts, it would be cool if an OTJ theme actually like took over the format, right? Rather than
that.
Here's the Wandering Emperor mirror. Oh, let's see wedding announcement. We haven't seen this one before. Let's see if it's getting lots of value.
You're haters. It's
the innovation. They cut down to 3 wedding announcements. Added an extra sideboard card.
That's so sick. Like, oh, come on. Like, oh my God, randomly, like 1 Elish Norn, Mother of Machines. Oh, innovation. I love it.
All right, before we wrap things up today, Pro Tour is coming up this weekend. Twitch.tv/magic. Check it out if you're interested. I did want to mention briefly older formats. So we've started to get the tournament results from Magic Online primarily at this point, showing off what OTJ is doing in Pioneer and in Modern. And I just wanted to hit you up with a couple of these cards and see if you think they're actually like legitimate threats to the meta, or if they're gonna fade out and it's just like people messing around with new stuff. So in Pioneer, there's really like the big one, Slick Shot Show Off. In other prowess synergies, like that's kind of been the card that's went from 0 to everywhere. So Slick Shot Show Off, Demonic Ruckus is seeing play in the same decks with it as a way to trigger prowess. What do you think? Is Slick Shot Show Off, Krim, underrated or overrated at this point? This card's getting a lot of hype. Like, is this actually going to revolutionize Pioneer / Modern, or are we going to see like it's a little bit better than a Belmore and things go back to how they were before with prowess is like tier 3 or whatever?
I don't know. I can't speak to Modern because there's something that is concerning to me in Modern where if I spent 2 mana and did nothing and had nothing on the board, I feel like that is bad times. Pioneer, now that's different. Pioneer, I think, is a format where like you can do that, and I think right now I do think it's a little bit just like it's the new hot toy, right? The new thing to try. But do I think it's bad? No, I still think it's good. It's just a little overhyped right now. And I think in Pioneer and Standard, Slick Shot Show Off definitely has a chance to show its stuff. So I think that card's probably the truth. But is it what? I don't know. It's like $72 a playset right now. Good Lord. I don't.
The first Pioneer challenge that we've seen, Gruul Aggro, actually the most played deck out of the top 64, which is essentially Gruul Prowess, playing the full playset of Slick Shot Show Off, and actually ended up taking first place too. They didn't all do that well, but the #1 overall deck, Gruul Prowess with Slick Shot Show Off. What do you think about that deck, Richard? Like, is this deck here to stay?
And it's not Boros? That's wild.
It's not. It's playing. It looks like the standard pump spell deck kind of with like Picnic Ruiners and Questing Druids.
I think Slick Shot Show Off is a design mistake. I think it's gonna be very strong in Pioneer. It's like if you gave a Storm deck the ability to suspend their spells and like fire them off at will, right? Because when you're playing a Prowess deck, you're trying to like combo someone, and you get to just use your mana as you want, and then you play the waiting game. You wait until you're all set up, till you have the pieces, till your opponent taps out, and then you get them. So giving like these kind of combo decks the ability to do this, I think, is inherently broken. So I think it'll stay in Pioneer due to power level. Even in Modern, I think it has a home here. Like, it could even sit around. Like, once you see that there, you can't just tap out, right? Like, it's just...
Yeah.
Like, these decks are gated by their mana, right? And this allows you to transfer 2 mana from one turn to the next, which I think is, like, very powerful. So I think it's here to stay. I think Slick Shot Show Off shouldn't have been made. It's like an Earl level type of thing. Like, you shouldn't be able to suspend your Storm cards. It kind of cheats and gets around it. So I really like the card.
It's not a combo card. I think calling it a combo card is doing it a disservice.
Like, you want
It's
as much mana as possible to prowess as many times as possible, preferably with another prowess creature to deal like maximum damage in one turn. So you're saving up for this big burst, right? Especially if your opponent has shields down, so they can't remove. So it's like, I don't know, if Infect could plot their spells or something, like I don't know, it's like a little sus, right? It's a little sus.
I found Plot to play really well. I've been surprised at how powerful it is. Like, not just with Slick Shot Show Off, which is probably definitely the most hyped of the Plot cards, but it actually like is a really good mechanic overall. Maybe Slick Shot Show Off itself is a bit like on the scary end because it's just like so aggressive, but I actually have found the mechanic to be super fun to play with. So I think it definitely has staying power. I think we'll see in Modern. Like, Modern also just has so much free interaction, like so much free removal. It doesn't really stop you from getting got by like a Solitude or something. Like, I played against multiple Slick Shot Show Off prowess decks last week for the Moto Masters thing, and it turns out like they load up a bunch of spells and you can still just Solitude it or whatever. So I found her to be good, but it still does die to the things that everyone else is already playing in the format. As far as
Snakeskin
Modern,
Veil. They have
Snakeskin Veil, the hero. The 2 cards I wanted to mention in Modern, one is my Collector's Cage plan actually paying off. There was a Magic Online preliminary #1 deck. It says humans, but then if you look at the deck, it's actually Collector's Cage humans, which is a deck I've been working on lately. They got rid of the Emeralds, which makes sense. They were probably a little memey, and replaced them with Moonshaker Cavalry, which I guess is also still pretty memey, but you can sometimes cast it in your humans deck. But yeah, that deck might actually be real. It actually won a tournament, which is pretty exciting. The other card I didn't expect is Roxanne. Roxanne showing up in Amulet Titan decks, most often in the sideboard, but apparently making a meteorite is good enough for Modern. I would not have
What do you
guessed
do with
Five
an Amulet
drop?
Titan?
Wait, we're talking
You just-
5-drop Roxanne?
Yeah, Roxanne.
Maybe
this
it's for the
party all
2
night.
damage. Like, do you need to deal 2 damage to something that's relevant in Modern?
I think it's just like, yeah, I mean, I don't know what does Amulet Titan have specifically they need to kill with 2 damage. I imagine it's just for value. Make a meteor, kill something, get a Roxanne.
Someone have a bet
sing
that
songs.
they can win the challenge while putting a meme card in their deck. Like, what does this do?
I thought that at first, but many people are playing Roxanne in their sideboard. It's actually like many Amulet Titan players, so it's not just one player doing it for the
Because
meme.
that one guy successfully did it and drove up the price of Roxanne.
And now, yeah, maybe it's all MTG finance play. Yeah, gotta get.
Oh, I'm curious now. What the reason? Like, you think the 2? I think the 2 damage has to be relevant. Tell me, there's no better ramp spell than 5 mana Roxanne if you're just trying to ramp.
What are you killing? What does it really need to kill, though? I'm trying to think, like, some decks, like, you really got to kill the Thalia, or Living End, you really got to kill the Voidwalker. Is there a creature like that Amulet Titan really has to kill that Roxanne kills? Oh, maybe Magus of the Moon? Maybe it's a Magus of the Moon, like, snipe your Magus? That's the best I can come up with on the spot.
Then it's hard to cast because you need green. I guess you only need to get 1 forest, and then you can do it. Maybe it is
get
Magus.
your forest, and so maybe that's the best I can think of.
I'm lost. I'm still very lost here. 5 mana
Roxanne.
Roxanne?
5 mana,
Yeah,
mana,
right?
That one.
I just
Still
wanna
that
make
one.
sure-
You're right. That deals 2 damage to any target when it attacks.
I like I'm watching because you gotta understand. I have a wide monitor, right? I have a very wide monitor. Richard loves giving me crap for it. So like I'm watching you two talk about it, and then I'm looking at Roxanne, and I'm looking back at you, and I'm looking
You're like,
back
"Her?"
at Roxanne. I'm like, where am I? Am I high? What's going on here?
MTG Finance. MTG Finance. Let us know in the comments. There's got to be some reason for this. That's
Roxanne.
just like
Starfall
players like, oh my
Savant.
god, it's so obvious, guys.
Starfall Savant, right?
Starfall Savant.
Same one.
That's the
Okay.
That's the
All right.
one.
Okay. You know what? Okay.
One other card I got shit out. Simulacrum Synthesizer. That was a card I was like, I don't know. It's got a mana value restriction of 3. You gotta have a artifact mana value 3 greater ETB to make a construct. And I was like, is that actually gonna be like fast enough for Modern? It doesn't trigger off, all your Mishra's baubles and so forth. Turns out it's actually very scary in Modern. And there's been some affinity decks playing it, and that card can pop off. I faced down a deck that on turn 3 had, I believe, 4 constructs that were like 12/12s or something. It was just like the face roll. So that card's really impressed me. And that's one that gives me hope for Standard too. We haven't really seen artifacts be a real deck, and they got a lot of support in the big score. So maybe someone figures out a way to like make Synthesizer work in Standard.
Yeah, that card, that one does seem sweet, along with oh god. I wonder if like we'll eventually ever get an actual equipment deck. I know the
Ooh.
idea of equipment decks, right? It just by nature sets you up to get blown out 100%.
Yeah.
But you see Lost GT, you see all like sort of like, Wealth and Power, and you see like all the cards like the Kellen, the Adventure Kellen in Boros.
Yeah.
You see a lot of these cards, and it just feels like it's dancing around tier 2.5, right? But if it actually got support, I would love to see that, because I think GT is pretty fun.
You can add the
I bet it'll
GTA, make it tier
happen.
3.
Huh?
You can add the GTAs to your deck and then make your deck tier 3.
It drops down.
I
drops down.
want
a
to
tier,
lower
yeah.
the tier. I want to lower the tier. I mean,
I bet it'll.
I mean,
It'll
Lava
happen.
Spur Boots
they
being
keep
played.
doing it.
Is that
in
Sure.
Modern. Yeah.
Yeah. Ember
mean-
Cleave was played in Standard. Was that an equipment deck? Like that's the
No,
only
but
deck
it
we
may
ever
have.
played.
Yeah.
That's not an
Not
equipment deck,
really.
an Embercleave deck, right? We've been dancing around it. I wanted to see if they just keep making cards for like equipments and equipment decks, but they keep putting out poopy equipments. And also no, okay, hot take, drop Stoneforge into Standard. You won't. Like I think they should just drop Stoneforge into Standard. I know
Would it
that
be
was
good?
banned.
Ooh.
That's the
Good in
thing.
Standard?
I don't even know if it would. Okay, would Stoneforge be good enough to make equipments exist?
Yes,
Like,
I think it
on
would. I don't
what
think it'd be
the
broken though with no Jace or anything. Like I think it was a product of that format that it was so like bannably broken.
yeah, and because
Wait, do
there's
we
a way
have
to
what's the most
shuffle.
legit equipment we have in standard? Don't tell me
Lost
GT.
GT, baby. No,
Don't
no.
tell me
So,
GT.
sort of wealth and power looks like it could be good. I mean, it doesn't.
Some of the from Mirrodin ones would probably see play because you can tune her up and get a body out of them, like Dragon
Yeah.
Wing Glider and like that silly stuff. Like that might be good enough if you have Stoneforge to cheat him into play.
Like, you know what? If Dragon Wing Glider is our Batter Skull 2024, then I will take it. I just want to see them stop teasing all these art like equipment decks and actually make it an archetype. It doesn't have to be like, you know, like clear and far
Griff
and
just
wide
wants
the
to
best
use his
archetype.
edicts.
Yeah.
Griff just wants to use his
He wants to
edicts.
get the Voltron player, yeah.
Yeah, just put a dumpster Voltron players.
Well, I bet it'll happen eventually because Wizard's going to keep printing equipment commanders and equipment for Commander because it's so popular there. So probably accidentally we'll eventually have like a bunch of Commander cards that just form a standard deck that works. So I could see that happening eventually. Anyway, oh boy, we're running a little long. Think we're gonna skip on fish mail for this week, but we'll make sure to get it in next week. So, Richard, if people want to send in fish mail, how do they go about doing that?
All right, hit us up on Twitter/X at MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
And I believe that brings us to the end of episode 481 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So, Richard, Krim, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to the sponsors of the show today. And we will be back next week to talk about Pro Tour Outlaws at Thunder Junction and whatever else goes on in the world of Magic. So, until then, have an amazing week, everyone. And this is the crew signing out.